Okay, so we're going to start off by revising how to solve one-step equations by hand. By now we should be up to exercise 7C. So far what we've done is we've done 7A, 7B we used a Google Doc alternative which I shared with you, so you were meant to have completed that. Then we looked at backtracking and we also completed another Google Doc. Now we're going to move on to exercise 7C. But before we move on to 7C, I want to go over this again just to make sure that you remember how to use the balance method. I'm going to start with one-step equations, then I'm going to do two-step equations, then I'm going to be doing how to solve equations with fractions. But if you have not completed exercise 7B, you need to go and complete that first before you move on to 7C. So if you want to use these notes for 7B, feel free to do that. Alright, I'm just going to shift my camera down now so you can see my working out as I do it. Alright, so the first one says a plus 5 equals 12. The aim is to get a by itself. Now, if I want to get a by itself, I've got the plus 5 in the way. So I have to think to myself, okay, what is the opposite of plusing 5? The correct word is inverse. What is the inverse of plusing 5? Taking away 5. So I have to get a by itself. In order to get the a by itself, I have to get rid of this plus 5. Opposite of plusing 5 is minus 5. So I'm going to take away 5 on both sides. So I'm going to go a plus 5 minus 5 equals 12 minus 5. Now, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So if I take away 5 here, I also have to take away 5 here. That's why we call them balanced equations. Equations always have to be balanced, so whatever change you make to one side, you also have to make to the other. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a different colour for my changes. So I'm going to write minus 5 here in green, and I'm going to write it here in green so you can see the changes that I make on each side. Alright, what will then happen is we know that plus 5 take away 5 will make 0, so we're going to get rid of those because they cancel out. So on this side we have an a left, so a equals, then we do 12 take away 5, which is 7. So we know that a equals 7. Alright, let's move on to b. b minus 6 equals negative 9. Okay, so I think to myself, what is the opposite of taking away 6? I want to get rid of the minus 6, so the opposite is to add 6. So if I add 6 to this side, I then have to do the same to the other side. So minus 9 plus 6. Alright, so whatever change I make to this side, I make to the other side. Now what do I mean by side? The equal sign is like my wall. Okay, this is one side, and then the other side of my equal sign is the other side. Right, so minus 6 plus 6, that cancels out. So I'm going to get rid of that. Because on this side now, I only have b left. And then negative 9 plus 6 is going to be negative 3. So b equals negative 3. Alright, moving on to c. 7c equals negative 35. Okay, a number next to a letter means times that letter. So that means 7 times c equals negative 35. So I've times it by 7. I want to get rid of times 7. The opposite of timesing 7 is to divide by 7. So if I divide this side by 7, I also have to divide that side by 7. Alright, 7 divided by 7 is going to be 1, so that's going to be c. So they cancel out, so we're left with c on this side. And then negative 35 divided by 7, and negative divided by positive is a negative, so that's going to be negative 5. Alright, over here, d divided by 4 equals 8. I think to myself, okay, d divided by 4, I need to get rid of that divide by 4. The opposite of dividing is timesing, so I'm going to times this side by 4. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So I'm also going to times this side by 4. Okay. Divide by 4 times 4, cancel out. I'm left with d on this side equals 8 times 4, 32. Okay. Alright. Copy those down and moving on to two-step equations. Now, if you already have this in your rules book, you don't have to write it down again, but I just wanted to go over it with you again on video just to make sure that you understand it. If you find that you don't understand this, please come on Google Meet and ask for help. Otherwise, you can go and make sure that you've finished off the exercise 7B, alternative, the Google Doc that I set for you, before you move on to 7C. Alright, so the next video now is going to be on two-step equations. Alright, so moving on to two-step equations. So how do we solve these? So what we need to do again is we need to get the x by itself. Now, I've got that 5 in the way, and I've also got the plus 3 in the way. So how do we know what to do first? The first thing that you do is you get rid of the plus 3, and then you get rid of the 5 last. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to write this equation, 5x plus 3 equals 12. Now, I need to get rid of the 3, so in order to get rid of the plus 3, I need to take away 3. So, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So that will cancel out. So 12 take away 3 is 9. Then what I do is I need to divide both sides. I've got 5x equals 9. So I need to get rid of the times 5. So the opposite of timesing is dividing. So I need to divide both sides by 5. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay. That will cancel out. So x will equal 9/5. Okay. And we can leave that as a decimal. Right. Next one. X over 3 plus 2 equals 4. So what we need to do here is we need to get rid of this plus 2 first. So the opposite of plussing is minusing. So I'm going to take away 2 on both sides. So x over 3 plus 2, that stays the same. We're going to take away 2 on this side. Then we're going to go equals 4 minus 2. Alright, so that's going to cancel out. I've got x over 3 equals 4, take away 2, which is 2. Then I've got divide by 3. I want to get x by itself. I've got divided by 3. I need to get rid of divided by 3. So the opposite of dividing is timesing. So I'm going to times this side by 3 and times the other side by 3. What will then happen? That will cancel. So x equals 2 times 3, which is 6. Now what I meant to say here, I think I said leave it as a decimal, but what I meant to say was leave it as a fraction. Okay, fractions are more accurate. Always remember that. So always better to leave it in fraction form. But make sure that it's in simplified form. Now I can't simplify that any further. Okay, so I just leave it like that. Sometimes with fractions you can simplify them, but in this case we can't. So that's the furthest we can go. Alright. You can copy that one down into your rules book. And we're going to be moving on now to equations with fractions, how to solve equations with fractions. Now, before we do that, I want to ask you guys if you can please go to exercise 7B, alternative. Make sure that you've answered the questions that I've set for you earlier, and make sure that you understand how this process works, okay? With algebra and with equations, we use a procedure. And we need to understand the basics before we move on to the harder questions. So please go back and make sure that you understand how this works before we move on to the harder questions. Okay, now moving on to the notes for exercise 7C, equations with fractions. So I have a heading here, 7C equations with fractions. You can't see it because I'm emphasising on the bottom side of the board because I want you to see the spaces here where I'm going to do my working out. Alright, so we're going to start off, we're going to get straight into the examples. We're going to look at the first one. Now it's the same sort of principle as before. We're looking to get the value of x by itself. Now in order to get x by itself, we need to get rid of the 4 and we also need to get rid of the divide by 3. So you have to think to yourself, okay, what am I going to get rid of first? The first thing that I'm going to get rid of is the thing that's furthest away from x, which is the divide by 3. So I'm going to get rid of the divide by 3 first, and then I'm going to get rid of the 4, and then that will give me x by itself. Okay, so I think to myself, 4x over 3, leave a space, equals 8. And then I think, okay, the opposite of dividing by 3 is timesing by 3. So I'm going to times both sides by 3. So times 3 times 3. Now that's 24. And that's going to be 4x. Alright. So here we've got 4x equals 24. So thank God someone picked up the phone, because otherwise it would have just been ringing in my video. Anyway, so here, I need to now get rid of the 4. So 4x equals 24. I know that I need to get rid of the 4, so I need to, the opposite of, that means 4 times x. The opposite of timesing is dividing. So I need to divide both sides by 4. So I divide by 4 to get rid of that 4. And then whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So then, that cancels out. So x will equal 24 divided by 4, which will be what? 6. Okay? Now, next one. B. 4y plus 15 divided by 9 equals 3. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm just going to save some space. So I'm not going to rewrite this again because I don't have much room. But what I'll do is, we know that we need to get y by itself. We need to get rid of the 4. We need to get rid of the plus 15. And we also need to get rid of divide by 9. Now the whole thing is being divided by 9. So I'm going to get rid of the divided by 9 first. Then I'm going to get rid of the plus 15. And then I'm going to get rid of the 4. Alright, so let's do this. Times 9 on both sides to get rid of the 9 at the bottom. Okay, 3 times 9 is 27. So 4y plus 15, leave a space, equals 27. Now, I need to get rid of the plus 15. So, I need to take away 15. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay. So, 27 minus 10 is going to be 17. Okay, minus another 5, that'll be 12. So 4y. So we're left, so plus 15 minus 15, that cancels out. We're left with 4y equals 27 minus 15, which is 12. Okay, then we've got 4y, I've got the 4 in the way. So 4 times y. So the opposite of timesing is dividing, so I need to divide that by 4 to get rid of it. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Y equals 3. Because 3 times 4 is 12. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay? Next. 4 plus 5x over 2 equals 29. Now, what are we going to get rid of first? We need to get x by itself. Now the plus 4 is in addition to this fraction. That's the furthest away from x. So I'm going to get rid of this first. So, if I want to get rid of plus 4, I have to minus 4. That's the inverse. Okay? Or the opposite. The opposite of adding is to subtract. So I'm going to take away 4 from both sides to start off with. Now I know that this is positive 4. There's no plus sign in front of it. But whenever there's no plus sign in front of it, I can assume that it's a positive. Unless there's a negative sign, okay, that means it's a negative number. There's no negative sign there, so I just assume that it's a positive number. That's positive 4. I need to get rid of the positive 4. Opposite of positive 4 is to subtract 4. If I want to get rid of it, I need to take it away. So whatever I do to one side, minus 4, I do to the other. Get rid of it get rid of it all together there. So then I'm left with 5x over 2. Leave a space for my next working out. 29 minus 4 is 25. Okay, what do I need to do to both sides? I need to times it by 2 to get rid of the divide by 2 at the bottom. So whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. I get rid of that. I have 5x 25 times 2, which is 50. Alright. Then 5x equals 50. Now I need to get x by itself. So 5x means 5 times x. The opposite of 5 times is to divide by 5. Okay, timesing something by 5 is to divide it by 5. So whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Alright, so x is going to equal 50 divided by 5, which should be 10. Alright, and finally the last one, lucky last. 7 take away 2x over 3 equals 5. Now, a lot of people look at the negative here and they get confused with the 7. Now the 7 is a positive number, it's plus 7. There's no plus sign in front of it, but it's plus, it's not a negative number. So because if I want to get rid of this 7 here, I need to take it away. So I'm going to take away 7 on both sides. That's the first thing I do. I get rid of those. 5 take away 7 is going to be negative 2. What's left over? Negative. So I haven't crossed out that minus because that minus belongs with this number here. So I'm going to keep it as it is. Negative 2x over 3. Now, I need to get rid of this divide by 3. So I'm going to times both sides by 3 to get rid of the bottom number. Okay. That cancels. I've got negative 2x equals negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6. And then what I need to do is I need to get rid of this negative 2. So in order to get rid of the negative 2 times x, I'm going to divide both sides by, not 2, but negative 2. So I need to divide this side by negative 2, and I also need to divide this side by negative 2, and then what happens is these cancel out, and you are left with negative 6 divided by negative 2. We know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so it's going to be positive 3. Okay. Now, a lot to absorb there. So if you have any further questions, please come on Google Meet and I'm happy to go over this with you again very slowly. So the next exercise you're going to be working on is 7C, and there's no Google Doc for these. These are going to just be straight out from your book. I will tell you which questions I would like you to do on the Google Classroom. Alright, that's all for now. If you have any questions, come on Google Meet. Thank you.